Hey, what's up, guys? It is METAGAMESGX here, and we are going to be looking at this gameplay video that I have from the WCQ. Of course, it was over the last weekend, and I got a bunch of great gameplay replays that you guys will see, so if this video gets to 100 likes, I will upload another one tomorrow, but this one was a game versus Snake Eye Fiendsmith. I immediately get ashed off the top here on the Lubellion, which is why you typically like to actually start Lubellion in Master Duel right now, because there's so much Bestial Fiendsmith at the moment where it's actually just worth it to open the Lubellion so it gets ashed, like what just happened there. And of course, I am running the Gizmek Uko, which is a machine, and I am using the unique extra card Sprine the Iron Dash Dragon, which is a High Spirits bridge and a branded deck. Of course, we did open up Lubellion, High Spirits, Uka, and Triple Tactics Talents, and while this hand does technically get stopped to like 3 hand traps, it's definitely a very good hand, so as you guys will see, because I do run the Sprine, which makes the Uka a bridge for the High Spirits. My opponent here does chain the Max C though, so our opponent does just have a lot, but that's okay. We do have the Thrust, which does help us through, and that's why it's so free on Master Duel. So I do send the Sprine, and then I send the Uka, and then I search the Spriggan's kit, since I do not have access to Branded Fusion yet. So that's typically going to be your best search off the High Spirits if you don't already have the access to Branded Fusion. Now, Kit is going to search the Branded Fusion while putting back to the bottom of my deck a Branded High Spirits. I'm going to attempt to resolve the Branded Fusion now that, you know, of course, Ash Blossom has already resolved, and this goes off, and I am able to go into the Sanctifier because we are under the Max C. So, of course, Sanctifier is one of our best plays under Max C, giving us a Fallen of Albaz plus Cartesia in the graveyard so that we can revive it on our opponent's turn and, you know, theoretically have 2 interruptions at least through Max C. And here I'm still able to go through the Triple Tactics Thrust line and get the Fusion Duplication, which Fusion Duplication is a crazy branded card that, I mean, it's basically a branded card. It lets you target 1 Fusion or Poly normal or quick play spell in the graveyard in either player's graveyard, so this card's great in the mirror matches. As you guys see, a lot branded on Master Duel right now, so this card's great for that, but it's also great for playing through Maxi, which is why I just love Triple Tactics Thrust, and why I think this card's actually pretty much just staple in branded Despia. And so we go into the end phase. I'm able to go Cartesia because we were able to do that line, and I get the Sprine for follow-up on Fallen of Albaz, which is never a bad thing with branded. Even just a Fallen of Albaz for follow-up is pretty good. He starts his main phase with Fiendsmith Engraver, and this tells me he's already on Fiendsmith, and when you see Fiendsmith start resolving their cards, you kind of just let them play as branded. They have very clear choke points to use removal on them, so branded usually interacts very well into the Fiendsmith deck, and so we see the Lurry come out, and this is typically your first checkpoint with branded on when to start doing stuff, is when the Lurry comes out, because you don't want them to link into Requiem, because you don't have like the best out for Requiem unless you have Mercurier a lot of the time, and this just prevents them from getting onto the Requiem. Of course, he does already have an Engraver in graveyard, so theoretically I could have maybe waited for the Engraver to do all of this, but I felt like this also forces his hand a little bit. And so I'm able to go Sanctifier, summon the Maxi, Fallen of Albaz, and then fuse off the Lurry, so I'm able to go out to the Albion, the Branded Dragon, since it does just require a light monster, and the Lurry was light, and now Albion's going to be able to bash the Sprine in my graveyard. I sent last turn plus the Albaz. I sent this turn for the Mirror Jade, and now I'm just kind of waiting for him to play, because he could either go Engraver Effect, and if he goes Engraver Effect, I'll just Mirror Jade it, so I felt like the Mirror Jade was just fine on top of having the Fusion deployment, which can get me a potential another 2 removals, and he does have the Wedgeu Temple, so this does definitely tell me that he's basically on Snake Eye Fiendsmith at this point. He goes Wedgeu Temple Effect. He's able to place one of his Millenniums from hand and then place the other from deck. So these cards are just crazy, honestly. I could definitely see them getting limited in Master Duel because of the fact that they're just super overtuned for the best of 1 format. They get you into most engines themselves, whether it's just through Zombie Vampire or just like making things like Chorozo into Infernal Flame Banshee. I think, you know, one of these cards are definitely going to one. It's probably Sangenjin. And with that being said, I'm going to choose the Fusion Duplication because I don't want these to resolve. If these start summoning, he's going to get way too much advantage kind of thing. So I'm able to go into the Fusion Duplication, luckily, and then send the Tragedy plus the Fallen of Albaz. The Tragedy is a nice follow-up as well as giving me a draw, since once it's sent to the graveyard, I get to search a Despia, and then next turn I can banish it, and then just reset a branded spell or trap card if I get one in rotation. And now I'm able to go into the Chaos Star Source Dragon. Chaos Star Source is going to target his 2 back row, and even though this says cannot be destroyed by monster effects, that's only when it's a monster, so I'm able to pop both of those monsters. Alright, and now the opponent ends up going into the Engraver here. This is going to be a perfect time to go Mirror Jade here, because that just does get rid of the body before he can go Requiem, and puts him on 2 cards in hand. Now, that did kind of exhaust my resources because the Albaz is already used, but, you know, we are putting him on better Have-It with 2 cards, and at this point, it's going to be hard for him to even OTK this kind of wall. That's what you kind of want to do with Branded when you're, you know, when you set up a board and you want to make sure you survive, you know, make as many fusion bodies as you can, such as like this Albion, which is just going to force your opponent to attack over, and then it gives you follow-up. So he does have the normal summon Poplar here, which is crazy to me, but, you know, that's why this deck is so good, because OSS is essentially just like last card branded fusion, right? You have several ways to it, through like Witch line, or even just the regular Snake Eye line. And then like your other engines usually can tutor it out anyways too by going into the... So, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, there wasn't really too much I could have done to play around this. I mean, I could have made Stapelia, but I had to interact with the Millennium cards, and I had to interact with the Fiendsmith cards. So for whatever it's worth, I think I played that out correctly for the most part. Maybe saving the Renbrum access might have helped. He does link off the Snake Eye Poplar for Link Karibo, a banned card over here in the TCG, because this card is just free interruption to prevent your Apollousa from being attacked over and things like that. So we do see the Poplar reslot itself, and then he links off the Maxi for the Link Karibo. He does get the Moon of the Closed Heaven right here. I summon the Albaz off the Renbrum, which is definitely a misplay, because you don't quite need to do this at this point, right? You would rather do this in the end phase, where you can get it as a body, so you can at least have another card on the board. He goes Moon Effect, and then he goes into the Requiem, so he is able to still go down his Fiendsmith line. He is able to go Requiem and to attach the Engraver, and then he links off, or sorry, fuses off his 2 back row into the Snake Eye Doom Dragon from the Contact Fuse, and he's going to be able to slot the Albion, which is pretty smart, so it doesn't go to my graveyard. And then he's able to go the OSS, finally sending the Poplar to the graveyard, so that he's able to summon the Snake Eye Ash. Snake Eye Ash is going to search the Birch, and then he's going to link off the Birch and the Fiendsmith Engraver for the Sequence, and then the Sequence is going to be able to revive for the Lacrima. Lacrima is just so crazy as a card, I'm not going to lie. I see why it's banned in the TCG, to be honest, because this card just lets Fiendsmith get away with murder. So now he's going to be able to summon out the Engraver. And I'm kind of surprised he didn't go for the Desiree line, because if he went for Desiree Ignumde, he could have at least outed these two. But obviously I still have the Mirror Jade in the end phase, so now he's able to go into the Snake Eyes Oak, which is kind of why I'm surprised he didn't slot the Albion. Now that I think about it, I do think that was probably a misplay on his end. If he didn't slot, if he slotted the Mirror Jade, that could have, you know, messed stuff up, especially if I only have 1 Mirror Jade in deck. I have 2, so that's okay. And then he's able to go Snake Eyes Oak, revive the Birch, and then he goes Snake Eye Oak, send the Birch, so that he can finally get out the Flame Burge, and now Flame Burge is going to be able to slot the Mirror Jade finally, and then he links off the Flame Burge for the Promethean Princess to go into a revival of Oak and Birch, so that Promethean Princess can then revive the Snake Eyes Flamebird's Dragon. Now here, this is where he would make Zealantis if he ran it, but I'm pretty sure he does not. So he would have went to Pyro Phoenix plus Zealantis, and that might have been almost OTK right there. And then he is able to go into the Val phase, and then he attacks over all my monsters. This is exactly why I should have summoned the Albaz, because if I had waited, I could have summoned an end phase and had 1 more body. But he does go for the Sunlight Wolf, and then he's able to link it, or summon the Link Rebo into the Sunlight Wolf and revive the Ash. So this isn't looking good for me, to be honest. The fact he's able to recur the Ash Blossom, which is what Snake Eye does, and then he's able to go SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is going to banish the Lubellion, and now it's going to be my turn. I do have follow-up, though, because he is able, or I do have the Cartesia, so that's always something. Once again, if I kept the Albaz, this would be a way better position, because then I could summon out the Cartesia, and then summon out Aluber and do my thing. But we still have the Albaz in graveyard at the very least, and then I'm able to go into the High Spirits, get back, so that does give me a lot of follow-up, right? That's why I love High Spirits, because as long as we have High Spirits in rotation, we can get back to Branded Fusion. And here I just go into Lubellion. Lubellion was a great top deck, because Lubellion can get me into branded loss. I think Lubellion overall is one of the best cards in branded going second. He does go into the Snake Eye Flamebird Dragon's effect to target my Mirror Jade to give it to himself, which is definitely interesting, but this doesn't really do much besides giving him a body, right? He's playing Snake Eye. He's not going to have anything to send off the Flamebird's Dragon, but I do go into the Druid Swarm here, banish the Linkuriboh, because the Linkuriboh is an interruption on his turn if he gets out to another level 1, and then he is able to go the Promethean Princess. That is fine. I want that to kind of get out of the way, so I'm able to go Druid Swarm effect to then get rid of the High King Caesar, which is kind of why I'm surprised he did that, to be honest, because that just outed his best interruption, and now he just has the SP Little Knight. So now I'm able to freely go into the High Spirits, but of course he does have the Ash Blossom, and that's kind of what I was doing with his hand, right? I was trying to make him Ash Blossom anything but Branded Fusion, and of course we still have the Verte line if, worst case scenario, so we could have done that, but luckily enough, he does Ash the High Spirits, which, to be honest, isn't a bad situation or a call for him on this low card count, but because he doesn't necessarily know I have a Luber in hand. At this point, I now am able to send the Brand White off of the Saronir and activate the Despian Tragedy that was in my graveyard to reset it so that I'm able to, basically get the most out of my turn. I think this is why Brand White's one of the best cards in Branded, because in turns 2 and 3, it just becomes so important for your grind game, being able to use like a pseudo miracle fusion in your deck to use the resources in your graveyard and not go neg from hand when Brand's a really card starved hand or deck. And that's why Brand can play so well in the grind game. You can play on so few cards. Brand White's going to banish the Albaz plus the Chaos Star Source for our second Mirror Jade, and then the Mirror Jade is going to be able to banish the Promethean Princess, and then we are going to be able to go into Branded Fusion, just kill him from here. So then we're able to go Albion the Brand Dragon, go into Borreload Furious, since we already made Chaos Star Source. This is why sometimes I like double Chaos Star Source, because it comes up like right here. But now I'm able to go Lubellion, go into Battle Phase. I'm able to go Borreload, pop themselves. This is a misplay. I could have gotten closer to game if I had attacked over with Guignol into the SP Little Knight and then pop the Guignol to pop the Mirror Jade, and then I could have actually OTK'd him, so that was definitely a misplay right there. I could have had game right here, but instead I put him 1100 off game when I didn't need to. But we do have the follow-up, obviously, and there isn't really a whole lot he can draw at this point. He does have the Engraver effects, but I have so much follow-up in my Branded deck now. I'm able to grab another Fallen of Albaz. I'm able to set the Branded in red for my deck off the Albion, and now I'm able to get Cartesia, so basically I have a full board again. And I'm just going to pass that over to him. Once again, I would have had game there, so I guess this isn't the best example, and he does just surrender here, but I'm able, that's also very important to point out your misplays on the replays. That's also what I'm trying to show you guys with this series, because, I'm not perfect either, and, I think that one of the best ways to get better with Brand is to just watch your gameplay, to be honest. This is my current list also, guys. This was not the list I was running in that game, but this is my current list. I'm currently... I think Branded has to run a lot of cards that just, don't kill your hand at the moment. I think Forbidden Droplet's just, way too important in the Blue Eyes matchup to dodge the Drill Beam, and it also cracks the Snake Eye board, and it's very good into Crystron and basically every other deck. I also think Lava Golem's just way too good into, White Force and, Snake Eye decks, basically. You take out their best monsters and you don't really go neg off of it. And then also just the one of Shifter is just so good going second, honestly, because you can just OTK them, set up a board, and then won't be on Shifter anymore if you can't kill them. So this card's very good, but we do run the Quertus to try to do that. I'm running the one Nib to draw off of the Maxi in theory. I don't even like running Maxi in Brand anymore, because I've found out that most 40 card decks that can run about 15 hand traps can basically open in 80% or 80% of the time and out to max C. So, it makes it so this card's kind of dead, but at least does get rid of the Ash, and it's also very much necessary against the Mermail matchup. So, it's there for that, but we are on 60, and sometimes when it resolves, it's very good, and it's also pretty good going first. So, max C, I feel like you still kind of have to run, and yeah, I have been liking the Lava Golems, honestly, because of the fact that your opponent can't respond to it. I think that's the name of the game, is running cards that your opponent can't respond to, essentially, for non-engine. The Nib is just there as a one of Nib, but the Pot of Desires is also there because we do have the 2 Branded Fusion. I'm running the double Quem, double Cart for those ratios, to be honest. I'm not running double Ret. And we're still running more of this kind of consistency ratio where we really want to play into Verte here, so we aren't running Fusion Deployment. I'm still running Opening because it still gets us to Branded Fusion, so I think that's worth it. I think Allure is just very good to getting into your board breakers like Lava Golem. As long as you see one of these non-engine pieces, you typically have a very good matchup into most decks. I think you just auto lose to because you don't have Droll in your main deck, you don't have Fu in your main deck. And I just think Fu is like way too neg against Blue Eyes. So this is kind of the situation with Branded. You have a pretty good matchup into every other deck except for Mermail and just like random FTK decks. But I think like our matchup against like Gimmick Puppet, for instance, is very easy if we just draw a Bestial. So that's kind of fine. And then like besides that, I do think that Branded's in a very good spot right now. Just several spots we're taking like some of the top places in the latest WCQ. Abomod got third global with Branded, like came very close to getting second. And so congratulations to Abomod, just very goated Branded player, and we're gonna have him on the podcast later this week. So if you guys want to see and ask him any questions, please leave them down below. I will be sure to ask them. And guys, make sure to get this video to 150 likes. We will make a follow-up video, make another gameplay on Master Duel. I know you guys appreciate this and these little updates on the deck list. So if we get to 150 likes, I will upload that. And guys, thank you very much for all the support lately. Make sure you are subscribed. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers, of course. So guys, make sure to leave a like. Also, it helps the algorithm, helps get the video out there, helps spread the community. Leave a comment down below what you guys thought of the gameplay and my deck list. And with that being said, guys, I love you all. Have a great day. Be seeing you later. Also, check out my website for my branded spreadsheet and my branded playmat. See you guys later.